Welcome! Thanks so much for joining the Texas Conference Virtual Officers Training event. We appreciate our local church volunteers and want to provide best practices to help them succeed in their leadership positions. Our presenter for this session is Kenn Dixon, Vice President for Communication and Public Relations for Texas Conference. We appreciate him taking this time to share about communication and public relations for the local church with us today. A few housekeeping items before we begin. The presentation is about 40 minutes and, as you may have noticed, is being recorded. There will be time for questions at the end of the presentation. You can add your questions to the chat or share them during the Q&A when cameras and mics are open. This session ends at 5:40 p.m. If time does not permit to answer all the questions, a frequently asked question page will be created and shared afterward. So now let's connect and communicate. Kenn, the time is yours.
Hey everyone, I'm thankful that you are here today to join us in our virtual training that we are doing for the Texas Conference. I am Kenn Dixon. I am the Vice President for Communication, Public Relations for the Texas Conference. I'm excited to facilitate this session. You are navigating your new role, or you may have been in the role for a while as a communication leader for your local church. And so we're going to be talking about some things today that hopefully will help you become a better communicator, to assist your church, to be able to help with any issues or questions or concerns that may arise within your role as the communication leader at your local church. Before we get started, let's have a word of prayer. Father in heaven, Lord, we are grateful once again for this opportunity just to participate in this great session that we're going to be doing. And Lord, we just ask that as we get into the information that will be shared, that you would just guide us. And Lord, if there are any questions that may come up, we ask that you would help us and assist us in giving the answers that would further strengthen our local churches. We pray these things in your name. Amen. Once again, I am excited that you're here. We are recording these sessions for those that are attending other sessions because, let's face it, in the local church, many people have multiple titles and they can definitely overlap and can be a little bit overwhelming. But we are recording this and we do ask that if you have any questions that you would put them in the chat and be able to so we can address some of those questions. And I'll be watching the chat and making sure that any questions that come up that we can address those. Now, as you see on your screen, well, first of all, let me just say this. If you can just type in the chat, if you could just type that you can hear me, just say yes, thumbs up or something like that. That would be great because I don't want to go through this whole thing and you can't hear me. That would be really terrible. So if you are there, just put in the chat, yes, I can hear you, or no, I cannot hear you. Either one of those will suffice. Once again, we do have our question and answer session open so that you can start filling it with questions that you have and we'll be able to answer them. Good, you can hear me. All right, so if one person can hear me, then I know it's working well. And if other people can't hear me, then it's probably their computer, not mine. All right, well, on the screen, you see that we have our mobile app. Our mobile app is something that we're kind of excited about. We launched this over a year ago. And if you haven't downloaded the mobile app, please do so because you can see what's happening around the Texas Conference as well as get news updates. And we're also stream some of our things to it. And so it's also, it's for the iPhone or iOS and also Android devices. So you can go to your respective places and get the information. So please, download that. I'll pop it up here one more time. Pop up, you can search for TXSDA app in the app stores, and you'll be able to download that. We would love to connect with you on that. You can get all the information that is in there. We also want to let you know that we are traveling around the Texas Conference, and we're doing communication workshops. We've done one in the Dallas area. The next stop that we're going to is going to be San Marcos, the San Marcos Church, and that is June the 15th. And 2 to 4 in the afternoon. We have some great workshops that are lined up for you. And so with that, I want to let you know that some of the things that we'll be sharing in that workshop are obviously a lot more time, a lot more opportunity to share than this workshop that we're doing here. But please, take the time to come on out if you're in the area. We'll be in the Houston area in August 17th, and then we'll be down in the Valley in McAllen in September 28th. And then we want to bring to your attention, we hope that you get excited about this because we're excited about it, our Communication Innovation Summit. We're going to be calling it Connectopia, the same thing that we're calling our workshops, but it is going to be March the 6th through the 9th, 2025, and that is going to be in San Antonio at the Marriott San Antonio. We offer some workshops. Now, this is going to be a little bit different. These sessions are a little bit different because they're going to have some video editing, so it's more hands-on photography, graphic designing, podcasting, social media. So there's going to be some theory, some high-level things, but there's going to be a lot of hands-on. So bring your laptop. We'll be showing you some editing and some of the programs that are available, especially one that we use, and that is DaVinci Resolve. So we're excited about that. That date, again, is March the 6th through the 9th. So if you mark your calendar, we would love for you to join us on that. All right, let's get started. So today we're going to be looking at strategic partnership because that's exactly what you are. You are a strategic partner for your local church, for your church leadership. One of the things that I want to just give right at the bat, right at the top of this, I've been doing this for a number of years, and I can tell you this, that one of the things that I have that can be a little frustrating at times is that the communication person at the local church is viewed as someone that does bulletins, or content for bulletins, or the bulletin board, or telling the church members that there's certain things that are happening, and all those things may be true, but in this day and age, we're now thinking and rethinking how we view communication leaders within the local church. It is imperative that we look at them differently because in order for us to function in an effective way, we have to be able to be more strategic. In other words, we cannot be reactive all the time in everything that we do. We have to be proactive. I'm going to give you a heads up of what I mean by that in a second. But I want to introduce you to my team and who is your team. These are the individuals that work within our department at the Texas Conference that do an outstanding job from graphic designing to videography to video production to story writing to the print shop. All of these individuals are there, and they do a fantastic job of making sure that the things that happen within the Texas Conference are things that impact the lives of those that are within the church, and they are also individuals that are passionate about what they do. And so I'm grateful for this team that has assembled. I feel like I'm an Avenger. This team that's assembled to assist the Texas Conference in accomplishing its goal, its communication and public relations goals. So let me just share with you a couple of things. Now, as we talk about strategic partnership, and what does it mean to be a strategic partner? I want to let you know that within public relations, this is the meaning of public relations. And then I'm going to share with you actually the job description that the Seventh-day Adventist Church has created for local communication leaders. And this may surprise some of you because you may have been viewed by the church a certain way. And we want to kind of change that. We want to have some change management here. We want to really change the idea of what your respective role is within the local church. We don't want you to be this person that people look at and kind of say, okay, what do you do? Or this should fall underneath your area. So within public relations, the definition for public relations is simply this. It is the management function that establishes and maintains mutual beneficial relationships between an organization and its publics on whom its success or failure depends. That is what public relations is about. It is about building relationships. That is the reason why it is actually in the title, Public Relations. Now, within the Seventh-day Adventist Church Manual, here's what the role of the communication leader is within the church. And they call it a communication secretary. But I like to look at it as a communication leader. Communication department promotes the use of sound programs of public relations and all contemporary communication techniques And this is key. This is key. Contemporary communication techniques, because those are things that we use on a day-to-day basis. These are things that we use in our own personal lives to make our lives a little bit easier. And today that may be something like AI. That may also maybe social media. These are sustainable techniques or sustainable technologies, and they are used to propagate the gospel. In other words, to continue to share the gospel of Jesus Christ. That is the reason why we create or why we use the tools that we use. And so the strategic relationship has to be about trust. It has to be about using the tools. So why am I saying this? Because oftentimes there are churches that may say that they're not able to, or they should not use some of these tools to propagate or sharing of the gospel. The church should elect a communication secretary or leader, and where needed, a whole committee or a communication committee. So why this is important, because so many churches, they feel as though they should not use modern technologies, but they should always use those things that have been done in the past and continue to use those things that are being used in the past. The problem with that is that the society that we're connecting with, the people we're trying to connect with, are not using yesterday's technology. And the Bible says that we should be the head, not the tail. We should not be individuals that are so out of tune with individuals, so out of tune with communities, that we fail to be able to propagate the gospel to them. I'm going to talk a little bit more about this. And listen, if you have questions, comments, or things that you would like for us to look at or consider, put them in the chat. Put them in the question section, and we'll be able to talk about those. Let's go on. Let's dive a little bit deeper into this. Okay. So, as a trusted advisor, as a communication leader within the local church, or as they say, this is coming from the church manual, SDA manual, page 95. It says the communication secretary or the communication leader should have the ability to meet people and rightly represent the church, sound judgment, good organization, effective writing skills, and the willingness to carry out assignments. The secretary gathers and disseminates news to local media, cooperating with the conference communication director, and presenting periodic reports to the business meeting. The conference communication department provides adequate instruction, appropriate instruction that help the communication secretaries. The pastor, who is primarily responsible for communication program of the church, will work closely in an advisory capacity with the communication secretary or committee. A department or organization may appoint an individual to provide the communication secretary or the committee with information about newsworthy events. Now, it's interesting that it says that the pastor is responsible for the communication program for the church, and will work closely in a advisory capacity. Now, what does that mean? That means that the pastor is ultimately responsible for all departments of the church, but it is not his job to necessarily communicate all those things. That is why we have a communication leader at the local church. Let me put it in a little bit a little better context for you that may be a little bit helpful. So you are in the role of the communication leader at the local church. You are considered the press secretary for the church. Let's say the president, the pastor is considered the president. You're now the press secretary for the pastor. And so that means all information that needs to be disseminated to external as well as internal individuals should go through the communication department. And now why is that important? Now, this may sound like I'm stepping on toes. Listen, I've been in ministry for 20 years. I've been in communication for 20 years. I've done both of these things simultaneously, pastored a local church. I understand this. Matter of fact, I pastored a local church while I was a communication director for a conference. So I understand how there could be some jostling and some, you stay in your lane and I stay in my lane. But honestly, listen, it is imperative that the relationship between the communication leader and the pastor is one that is a trusted advisor. The communication leader should be able to talk to the pastor and say, Pastor, I think based on the data that I'm seeing or based on X, Y, and Z, we probably should not do this or we should do that. Now, this comes with there is some apprehension that may come with this because you may feel like, okay, as the pastor of the church, the pastor is responsible and should do this and do that. And that's true, yes. But your role as a communication advisor is to advise what is the best practice. So that means that you have to use sound practices that are being used. Now, let me give you an example, and I want you to kind of tell me if I'm on track on this, okay? And this is going to sound bad coming from a pastor. It's going to sound bad, but often what I have found is that whenever an evangelistic series is coming up, the evangelistic series that has been planned, it could have been planned for simply the last 2 months. Let's say the last 2 months. But it was been on the calendar for 8, 9, 10 months or a year, right? But what ends up happening is the church comes together and they vote that we're going to order a gazillion brochures that we're going to mail to people's houses. And when we get those brochures, we get them, we're excited, we pray about it. We have this day of prayer. We're going to go knock on doors. We're going to hand out these things. And then we get really excited about doing those things. And we're like, yes, this is what we're going to do. The night of the evangelistic series, there are 10 visitors and you're excited about it. You're like, wow, how did you hear about us? And they tell you all these different things. By night 3, there's 2 visitors left. And by night 1, the first week, it's only Adventists sitting there. And yet there's still 2 more weeks or another week. And the postmortem afterwards is, what happened? How come we didn't baptize any, very many people? The reason why is because the same way that we did things 50, 60, 70 years ago does not work today. Because we're living in a different environment. We're in a digital age where people are connected differently, they understand things differently, and they respond differently. Let me give you another scenario. If that same church would have invested in a social media campaign, they would have probably seen 100 to 200% better results. Why? Because we're living in an age where people don't expect you to come and knock on their door. Now, you're probably saying, wait a minute, but knocking on the doors is how we interact with people and show them that we care. Yes, in a time that was understood, but we're living in a different time where people they just respond differently. They don't understand and they don't do things the same way they used to. So we have to adapt and use contemporary. Remember what? Let me go back to this because some of you guys just came on the call here. Here it is right here. Look. We have to use contemporary communication tactics or techniques. We have to use what people are used to seeing. Now, what does this mean? It means that we also have to understand the church's goals and objectives. Understanding of the church's goals and objective to achieve success. We don't know if we've achieved success if the church doesn't have a goal. Now, if the church's goal is to reach everyone with the gospel of Jesus Christ, first of all, that is great, beautiful. Try making it a little bit realistic, okay? Try reaching the people on the street where your church is. How about on the neighborhood where the church is? Goals are supposed to be lofty and future focused, but what are the objectives? How are you going to accomplish that? And this is where you come in as a strategic leader. Alignment of the communication strategy with the overall vision of the church. The role of the communication practitioner, you see I've changed that name again, is to see the goals and put them into actionable plans. That's key. Because your goal as your role as a communication practitioner is to put all of these lofty plans that all of the departments have, the VBS program, the youth program, they want to create lofty things, the Pathfinder program. It is up to you to say, okay, how do we make those into actionable items? How do we make that possible? Okay. Well, it comes with building trust. So communication practitioners can build relationships that establish trust with key stakeholders and leaders, internal, external, and media relations. Now, being seen as a communication partner is more than tactical, it is strategic. You have to ask the why. Okay, why are we going to do that? What is the purpose of us sending out 5,000 handbills? Is it because we as a church have, we've become lazy and we don't want to go knock on doors? Is it because we as a church don't want to take the extra mile to do X, Y, and Z to get people to come? Is it because we as a church don't have the funds to create this, and that part of the strategy? Well, as a communication practitioner, it's your job to say, how do we approach these problems with sound logic and reasoning? How do we approach the problem of our church shrinking? How do we approach the problem when we don't have young people in our church? How do we approach the problem when there's the community around us is older? How do we approach the problem where we as a church are no longer connecting to the community? How do we as a church, how do we approach those problems? Okay. And we have to distinguish between the relevant and the irrelevant information and evaluate the opportunities for resolution. So in other words, it is up to us as communication practitioners to be the ones to say, this is not going to work, or here's a better way in which we can do that through sound practice. Now, I will let you know, as a professor of public relations, I can tell you this. There is so much data. There is so much information on how people respond in this digital age to connectiveness. There is so much. Right now I'm in a PhD program on strategic communication, strategic media, and I've found so much information about how we as a church can connect better with people in the community in this digital age. You'll have to read my dissertation when I'm done. So sorry, I can't go into all of that right now, but it is fascinating information. Now, as we're building relationships, we become these trusted advisors, these trusted counselors. We advise and we anticipate. In other words, it is our job to say to our pastors, to our leadership within the church, it is my advice that this is probably the better way of doing this. Now, I'm going to pause for a second, because when you think about your role as a communication leader within the church, what are some of the things that you have been tasked with doing? Just, what does the church ask you to do? And what do you think your role is? If you have any, thoughts or comments on that, put them in the chat. I want to know what your church has tasked you, or what they have explained to you what your role is. And I'm curious. I'm curious. So go ahead and populate that, and now I'm going to kind of look at that and look back and forth, because I really want to see what are some of the things that your church has told you, or your congregation has shared with you, that what your role is. So let's look at this some more. Within your role as a strategic communicator, number one, you're a trusted advisor to the leadership of your church. You also internal communication. In other words, the difference between internal and external is simple as what it says. Internal, you communicate with your members, engaging members and building trust with them. That is something that it falls within your purview, because it is a internal communication tool. And with internal communication, you're communicating with members that are already within your congregation. Okay. And then there is media relations. So media relations, it is the development of public trust and support by working through journalists and bloggers. So what does that mean? That means that there are media entities within your community that you can share news and information and information with about what's happening with your church. So, all right, so let me look at some of these things here. All right, so you've put my church expects my role to be something that you just said. That is awesome. That is awesome. They want you to do that. That's awesome, because that's what we're here. And that's what I'm here for, is to help you become that better communicator. Posting weekly announcements, managing the website, social media channel, running AV. That's a lot. Yes, that is a lot. And that's can fall into the communication banner. But one of the things that you have to just kind of, think about is that as you're posting weekly announcements, who are they for? Are they for the church members? Are they for the community? Is there a better way of doing it? Because the messages that go to the community and the messages for the church are different. Okay, so and they're different platforms. How does your church, communicate? Do they communicate through text and email? Then you wouldn't do that with the community, because you don't have that information for them. So there's other ways in which there's other messaging language that you want to put out there to spark the interest of the community. Managing the website. Absolutely. We're going to talk a little bit about that. Managing the websites and what your role is. Because honestly, let me just share this with you before we even get to it. Your website is one of the first ways people connect with your church. So if your website is outdated, or you're using and look, I guess I could pick on Adventist Connect. If you're using Adventist Connect, that is not the best use of your, as we say, storefront, because your website is your storefront before anyone walks through your store. They will go to your website and see what kind of church you have. What kind of, is it a diverse church? Is it a modern church? What is the worship service like? And this is the other thing that I have to say, and this is part of one of my workshops that I do when we do Connectopia, Church Connections website, workshops, is that I talk about best practices for live streaming. Some churches need to stop live streaming because all they're doing is projecting what's happening in the building. And that's not what people are looking for, because there's gazillion other churches that have live stream that are really engaging, and they're going to, as we say in the ministry, they're going to sheep steal. They're going to steal your members. So sometimes you just don't need to stream, because if all you're doing is sharing what's happening in the building and not engaging an outside audience, you're losing it. So all of these things that you guys have talked about, awesome. Those are things that you should do. But here's some things that will take your church to another level, because many churches don't do these. They don't do that. Community relations, establishing public trust and support with working with community groups. What are the groups in your community that are, connected? Now you're probably saying, well, I don't really know. And one of the best ways you can find out is going to join the Chamber of Commerce. Go to the Chamber of Commerce meetings. You'll see all the community, because although we are sharing the gospel with people, there are organizations within our community that can do things a lot better than we can. Let's say that there's a homeless situation within your community, and your church doesn't have the resources, the manpower, or the patience to want to tackle that. Well, partner with another organization and supply a part of that, and then you can build relationships. That is the community relations. Okay. And then we have the external communication. You see, external communication, we're dealing with stakeholders and potential members. In other words, these are people who they're not members of your church as of yet, but they can become members. So how do you engage with them? There should be strategies in which how to reach them. Okay. Now we also need to understand this. We have to understand the a strategic voice. Developing a strategic voice, a congregational voice, tailoring messages to different audiences and communicating with an impact, cultural, generational, and socioeconomic. Knowing what to say, when to say it, and how to say it is part of your job as a local communication leader. Knowing what channels to use, what messages should go on those channels. If you're putting the same message on every channel, you're missing the strategic voice part of it, because one channel speaks one way. Mailing something to someone's house should not be the same message, identical message, as putting something on social media. Creating a little vignette video meets the needs of a certain demographic, but it may not meet the need of a different demographic. So you have to have that developing that strategic voice. In other words, how am I going to reach young people within the community as a church? How are we as a church going to reach young people within our community? We have to speak a certain way. We have to have a strategic voice for that audience. Our older members. How are we going to reach our older members? Let me give you an example of how this is. Okay, so if you have members that are sick and shut in and you stream for them, here's a better way of doing that. Creating a channel, a private channel just for them, so that they could watch the service, so that you're not streaming, so they're streaming something different. If the only reason you're streaming your worship service is because there are people who are sick and shut in, then create a channel just for them that's not in the public eye, because you want to maybe do something different for a different audience. And you don't want to create some kind of a channel that is broad for everyone. In other words, and we could talk more about that because that is what it means to have a strategic voice. All right, so being proactive. Now, this is something that you have to, it's almost like a muscle you have to work. Be proactive and anticipate the needs. Okay, proactive versus reactive. And you know these things, okay? So planning and looking ahead is what communication practitioners are trained for. That's what we do. We look ahead. We look down the road and we see what's coming. What's coming. You see there's an event that's happening. Let's see, there's a back to school church you should think about your back to school church event now, if you're bringing the community in. So now you start thinking about, you start planning, okay, what are we going to do? How are we going to reach this community? And let me tell you something. You're probably saying, oh man, we don't know how to do it. Listen, we're here at the Texas Conference to assist you. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that when I talk about media relations in just a couple of minutes. But you want to be proactive. You want to be proactive, thinking ahead. What are some of the programs that's happening? Don't let it be a knee-jerk reaction. Stay ahead of communication challenges, and being prepared is what makes for a trusted communicator. What I mean by that is that when the pastor is talking, having in the board meeting, he's talking about some plans that he wants to do in the next 6 months or 8 months or the next year. You should be writing it down. How? What, when, where, how, when, how are we going to do it? How are we going to come? What are the outcomes? What do we want to see? We don't want to see output. We want to see what are the outcomes. In other words, we don't want to post things on social media and pray and hope that people come. No, we want outcomes. What are the outcomes that we want? Pastor, you want to have an evangelistic series. How many people you want to baptize? I want to baptize, 50 people. All right. Well, if you have to baptize 50 people, you've got to have some plans. Okay, Pastor, the Pathfinder director says, I want to recruit non-Adventist kids in the Pathfinder group. I want to have 10 non-Adventist kids within the Pathfinder club by the end of 2025. Communication. Leader. This is how you start planning. This is the strategic part of it. You say, okay, how are we going to do it? What is the best way to get, 25 or 10 kids that are not Adventist? First of all, we got to find them. Second of all, we got to talk to them. We got to understand what they're thinking about. And we got to say, does this Pathfinder group meet the needs of those that are trying to, and we put them together. That's how we be proactive instead of reactive. Okay. We stay ahead of not only that, but we stay up to date with industry trends and organizational development to provide strategic insight and advice to the church leadership. That is the role. That's your job. That's the exciting part of it. As you can tell, I get excited about when I talk about these because whenever someone says, I've got a problem, I'm like, I've got an answer. I don't know what the answer is yet, but you tell me your problem, and I will, as a communicator, I will search for the answer. And that's what it means to be proactive. It is exciting work. Trust me, I love it. It is enjoyable. Not only that, not only you have to be proactive and anticipate, but you also have to be a collaborative partner. So actively seeking input, engaging in dialogue, and providing valuable feedback as a strategic partner. Seeing the vision of the leadership and making it come to life for all stakeholder groups while emphasizing the organizational goals. What does that mean? It means that every leader within your church, from the Pathfinder leader to the women's and men's leader to personal ministries to the Sabbath school to the pastor to the elders to the deacons, you want to be a collaborative partner with them. How can we make your goals and objectives happen? Because everything that we do as communication leaders is about partnering with someone and fixing problems. And the problems don't always have to be a crisis. They can simply be someone saying that we want to increase more engagement in Sabbath school. When you hear those kind of things, when you hear someone say, I would love for more members to come to Sabbath school, immediately your wheels start turning and say, how can we strategically get more people to come to Sabbath school? That's your role as a communicating partner. That's your role. It's an exciting role. And then we demonstrate emotional intelligence. Know when to provide a voice of empathy in time of need. Understanding the perspectives and the emotions of others can help tell stories, foster positive relationship, and build lasting trust. This is the part, I should have put this one first, but I always kind of leave this last because I really want you to understand that the art of storytelling, and I talk about this in our Connectopia workshops about kind of telling this story for your within the church, because most people want to tell what the church can do for people. What is, but honestly, the church can also tell the story of those who are seeking something from the church. And that takes an empathetic ear and an empathetic heart. Because once we get out of our own way, in other words, once we stop saying, hey, here's what my church does, here's what my church could do for you, and we start saying, what do you need? What are you looking for? I'm going to put this in practice, and I'm going to show you in a minute. And once again, I'm going to tell you, this is what the Texas Conference Communication and Public Relations Department is all about. We're trying to assist you in this. All right, so let me jump into this, and then we're gonna jump back over there. So strategic leaders. Okay, so there's some things that are imperative within the church that you have to be aware of. Trademark and copyright. Okay, that's number one. Online communication, your website, live streaming, social media, media relations training. Now, I did a video on YouTube. If you go to our YouTube channel, Texas Conference YouTube channel, you look under the playlist for public relations or communication, you'll see a training that I've done for media relations. It will help you on how you can get connected to local media for the events that you have in your area. Now, why is it important to have media relations? Because when a news organization amplifies your voice, it becomes more credible when they amplify your voice. Okay, so in other words, let the news tell your story about what you're doing. If you're feeding the homeless, you're doing back to school an event or something like that. There is a way to get the news at your location to share with the greater audience. And we can help you with that at the Texas Conference. We have the database for all news, legitimate news, bloggers, influencers within the state of Texas, actually within the whole United States. That is a database that we maintain and we have. And we can easily send you a list of news contacts within your area. You heard me. I can write to your area that has their news, their phone number, their email address, and the area in which they work in. In other words, we call that in the news side of things their beat. So in other words, if they're sports, if they're religion, if they're community, all of those things. So we have the ability to assist you with that. All you have to do is send us an email, communication@txsda.org. We will send you a list. Obviously, you have to let us know what what area you're located in. But these are the things that, as communicators and strategic leader, these are the things you should focus on, and that are very important, because these are the things that most people have a lot of questions about. And so we actually did a video on copywriting, and I want to just share with you the North American Division's understanding of this copywriting and the Texas Conference, and what it means to have brand identity. Now, the Texas Conference of Seventh-day Adventists maintains a brand identity that follows the North American Division's guidelines for print, digital, and all physical use for churches, schools, and other official properties. To access the Seventh-day Adventist, the official logo, and the brand identity guidelines for the NAD, visit nadadventist.org/brand/guidelines. And you can download the logos, stationaries, business cards, templates, all of these things that are there to assist you to make sure that the brand is still consistent. Now, here's where it's important for us to understand, because we get a lot of questions about copyright. And as I mentioned before, if you go to that same playlist on our YouTube channel, you'll find a copyright video that we did with the attorneys, the counsel for the copyright section within the North American Division. And what most people don't understand is that when we talk about copyright, and that's the reason why the Texas Conference has all of our churches with CCLR licenses, we have all of those things to cover us for commercial use licensing for music, for streaming, for our local churches. It's part of liability. And you're probably saying, well, we don't do that. Well, here's some of the things that you may or may not know. Number one, the Seventh-day Adventist hymnal is copyrighted material. I'm pretty sure you knew that. But it does not mean that you as a Seventh-day Adventist can use it any which way you want. You may not have known that. A church cannot use the Seventh-day Adventist hymn book any way they want to use it, because the people who have given us permission to use the material that is within the hymn book has put parameters on this use. Most of that use predates social media, streaming, and all of those things. So that is the reason why we offer copyright licensing for all of our churches. Because if you decide you want to take a hymn and you want to duplicate that hymn, print it out in your bulletin, you have really, in essence, that is copyright infringement, because the person, unless the person who wrote that song gave you permission or has given permission or blankets permission to copy that, that's copyright infringement. Now, some people say, well, wait, there's a lot of songs in the hymn book that are over 100 years old and therefore they're free. But, copywriting is a little bit more than just that, okay? In some, fair use means that in some places it's 100 years plus 70 from the last person of that family that dies. Now, if you want to go and look into all of that, you can, or you could just simply understand that that's the reason why we have copyright licensing for all of our churches. But copywriting and licensing for the use of different things within the Seventh-day Adventist Church is very important, because we're trying to maintain the continuity throughout all of our congregations, as well as we want to maintain the copyright and the trademark parameters that have been given to us. So that is very much important. Now, before we jump into questions, I want to kind of tickle your brains a little bit because this is part one. If you have not registered for our part two, which comes right after this, I think we have probably about a 10-minute break in between. It's going to jump deeper into strategic planning and strategic looking into how to utilize the role as a communication leader in a more dramatic and strategic way. But I want to just tease you with this, and this is something that this is a four-step public relations process. The first step is research. The second is planning. The third is implementation. And the fourth is evaluation. Now, these things are important, but I'm not going to go into in detail in this because that's what the next lesson is about. Research. Okay, how do we go about finding things? How do we go about figuring out things that we want to connect with? All right, so let me do this. I'm going to stop that. I'm going to stop all of that. Let's go ahead and I want to show you something here. I'm going to share my screen. And with sharing my screen, here we go. I want to share this screen. Let's see, is that the one? No, this screen. There we go. All right. So I'm going to share this with you. This is a program that we use, and this is available for us to get information for you. So research is incredibly important if you ever want to get down to really connecting with people. All right, so what is this? What are we looking at? So this is Spark 2.0. This is a program that we use to find audience. We're trying to find what people are thinking about, talking about, sharing. Okay, so what I did right here is I just simply put peace in this world. Okay, so what I'm searching is keywords. Now, as you can see here, many people, this is 7,000 to 9,000 people search this each month, peace in this world. And the audience, the sites that they visit are BibleTools.com. And the keywords that they use is peace for this world, world prayer for peace, prayers for world peace and healing, prayer for global peace. These are the things that people are looking for. And look, it breaks down even to the gender. Okay, so we've got 41% of females within that 9,000 people in the month. There were females that searched for this demographics. And look at this, 41.5%, exactly the same as female, were men. So in other words, what does this tell me? This tells me that both groups are searching for peace within this world. But you're saying, okay, but we have the answer to that in the Word of God. Let me share with you, as I shared it within our Connectopia workshop, is that you got to date people before you ask them to marry you. I just said something right there. I did. You cannot ask them to commit to a life change without giving them some kind of breadcrumbs to lead them to that change. All right, I've said that. Now, let me just say this. Here we go, jumping back here. Now, all of these other things are some things that, really can help out, but I want to really jump down to this part right here. As you're going through here, right here. See all highly affinity keywords. So in other words, what does this mean? And also look at here. See all trending keywords. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to look at these affinities. All right. So these are the things that people are searching for. And it tells you, prayer for world peace, Christians praying for peace in the world. Okay. Why is this important? Because these are exactly what people are typing. So imagine if you had these things plugged into your website, these keywords. Better yet, I'm going to even go even further. I'm going to go back here and I'm going to show you something. Go back here. These texts right here, Matthew 28:5, Matthew 28:5 through 7. These are things that people are searching for. They are seeking these things out. So imagine with these keywords, imagine you create, I don't know, a few videos and you answer. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to show you something. Related questions. All right. Imagine you create some videos with these questions. What is a good quote to keep on keeping faith? Have you ever thought about a Bible text or a quote that'll help you keep your faith? Let me give you the answer to that in 2 minutes. Quick video. Your pastor could do this every week. Look at this. What is the universal prayer for world peace? Have you ever thought that if there was a universal prayer for world peace, what would it look like or what would it sound like? Can you imagine, as a communication person, you get a list of these things and you give it to your pastor. You say, Pastor, let's film you for like 3 minutes with your iPhone. I'm not going to say Android, but with your iPhone. And you use your iPhone and you answer these questions. We take it and we put it into software and we just simply put some text on there and we send it out there with some of these keywords in here and we send it on social media. We put it on our website. People will find us. This is dating before you ask them to marry you. That's where we are. That's the world we're living in today, where now we use data to find out things that we once mailed out tons of stuff to people's homes and never got any results. Look at this. What are some of the skills and interests that people have? Look at it. These are some of the interests that people have in public speaking. Most mention these skills, leadership. So in other words, you can have a class in your area on public speaking. You can have a management. You can have, coaching. You can have how to deal with your finances. There are so many ways in which you can use this information. You can only imagine. That's why we're here at the Texas Conference, is to help you as a local communication leader be successful. We try to pull these tools together to help you. And I know that this is just one tool that has a plethora of information. Now, let me just share with you also another way that this can be used. Let's say that you have a church in your area, a big church in your area. Let's say I'm going to go World Harvest Church. All right. So actually, what I could do is I could go to the website. I can go to a church's website. Let me find a, if we think about a large church, let's see, mega church in Dallas. All right, we'll do Dallas since I'm in this area. Okay, so let's go with. I'm going to go with this website. And look, you could do this for any one of your churches within the area. I'm going to pull this one because this is, and the reason why when I went to this, the reason I grabbed this website is because when I go here and I type this in, mega church in Dallas, it's showing me in the rankings. So whichever one is at the top, it's the highest, in this area. So I'm choosing that because that's the way Google ranks them. It ranks them high. And so here it is. This is number 2 right here underneath a news article, 200 most mega churches, So I've grabbed that. Let's say it's in your area, wherever you are. It's in your area. Okay. And I go here and I go, instead of putting keyword, I go visits this website. Okay. So these are the people that visit this website. So I click on that and it'll do its little thing. Okay. So it's checking out that website and the people who visit it, because obviously the people that you're looking to bring to the gospel of Jesus Christ or to the Adventist message are not Adventists. So you don't use Adventists. You don't go to an Adventist website. You go to a site, I don't know, any church. It could be any size church. I chose to grab this church because it was high on the list. Now, so here it is. So the people who visit this website, these are some of the questions that they ask to find out that website. Who is the famous pastor in Texas? Who is the famous Baptist preacher in Texas? So all of these questions could be answered. You can change them around. Is Dallas getting a universal theme park? Okay, let's don't do that one. It's not important. If you want to. There's so many other things in which you can grab some questions and then you flip the questions around and then you can create a vignette video. You can create something that will be inspiring and touch the lives of individuals. I'm done. That's all I got for you. That's the research part of it. The planning is different. The implementation is different, and the evaluation is different. And if you jump to our next program, which starts in a few minutes, we'll talk more in detail on this. Listen, it has been an honor to be able to share with you your role as a communication strategist, your communication practitioner, as a trusted advisor. Now, I'm going to open it up. We have a few minutes up. I'm not sure if you have any questions. I'm going to look in the question section here. All right, so we've got one question here. Does your team assist us at the local church level with prints and banners? Absolutely, yes, we can do that. We can print those things. You would just simply go to our website, and let me see. I will try to do this really quickly, but if you go to the Texas Adventist website, go there, and I'm going to go back to sharing my screen. So I went to Texas Adventist website. There we go. And okay, so if you go here to our website, and then you go, let me make this big so you guys can see this. All right. And then you go here under church communication. You would click on that, communication, public relations. It'll open up here. You scroll down. You see my face on there, but don't worry about me. Keep scrolling down, keep scrolling down, keep scrolling down. Right here, it says project request form. You click on that. Click to enlarge, to make it bigger. You fill out this request with all your information. You hit submit. It goes to us. It goes into our system, and we're able to assist you with those things. And obviously, that once we get the information from you, we'll let you know how much it'll cost to create, and we'll let you know the time frame in which you can get it. So yes, we do have a full service print shop that's able to assist local churches. All right, I'm not sure if there are any other questions. If there are no other questions, I want to thank you once again for joining us for this workshop. And if you are planning to join us for the next workshop, I'm excited to carry on this conversation. But if not, we will also record that in case you have to go to a different workshop, and you can watch it later. Thank you again for tuning in. Thank you for joining us. And most importantly, thank you for the work that you do at your local church for the work of God. God bless you.